In most traditional teachings, we learn that our thoughts create our emotion, which then creates our reality. In one case, this is not true. When we're dealing with the emotional pain body, it's a different process, which I'll explain in this video. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but every time I sit down to do a video, it's off the top of my head. I choose a subject that resonates with me deeply that week. That's why a lot of you probably say, oh my gosh, it came to me exactly when I needed it. Because there's some kind of collective unconscious that a lot of us can tap into, and I happen to do that on a weekly basis when I feel something overwhelmingly deep that I need to process on my own or go deeper into. It's usually shared by a lot of other people too. So today's subject is the emotional pain body. This is a topic that I was first introduced to, I believe in 2001 or 2002 when I read The Power of Now. It was given to me by someone in my life who said, hey, everything you're talking about is in this book. And I think I was like 20. I don't know. It was a very long time ago. And at the time when I read these words and first heard the term by Eckhart Tolle, the emotional pain body, who's one of my favorite teachers, by the way, he's amazing. But when I heard the term emotional pain body, I was stunned because it was the first time in my life I had heard and seen a description of something that I went through completely and entirely and continued to for many years, but early in life never had a name for it. I just remember feeling like something would take over me and I would become unconscious. I was very conscious very young, as you guys probably know if you watch my videos. I had a broader understanding of my own stuff at a young age because I had a lot of stuff at a young age that I had to work out psychologically because things just didn't make sense to me in the way that I was being taught. I was highly sensitive and felt things on multiple dimensions at once. It was very confusing, and so that created a pain body for me, an emotional pain body of not being understood, of being misunderstood, of not having a lot of people to really relate to my way of thinking, feeling, being. And that's tough. But what it did for me is it created an emotional pain body, something that I didn't understand until it started getting triggered in my teenage years. When I started having deeper spiritual understandings of things, and then when this emotional ball of feeling would be triggered by something, an external event, it would then make me start to think negative thoughts or thoughts that were in alignment with that pain body. And I would immediately feel unconscious, like all these awarenesses I had just had were gone. And I couldn't reach them, and I didn't know how to get back to them. And so because of those young situations in my early teens that happened where I would have an understanding and then I'd have an emotional trigger and it would feel like it was not there anymore and I'd have to fight to get it back. I made my life about learning how to maintain that, what I now call awareness of the true self. So the emotional pain body is something that most people actually have at varying degrees. Mine happened to be really, really big, which is what pushed me into becoming a wounded healer, someone who understands deep emotional things on a different level because I've had to go through so many of them on my own and navigate my own pain body from a really young age. So what this emotional pain body is not created in the mind. It's an emotion. It's literally like an entity of its own, but it's not an entity. It's actually an emotional pain body. It's like a body within your body that functions completely from emotion. And it can be triggered by outside events that remind it of the very first original wound, the very first time these negative emotions came up that never got acknowledged or dealt with and let go at the time they occurred. It's almost like they keep stuck, right? It's like they don't get dealt with, so they go into this storage unit called the emotional pain body. And every time something similar comes up, that whole storage gets triggered, and it's this extreme emotional reaction for sometimes a small comment. You can think you're crazy if you don't know what this is. So it's different, you guys, because a lot of times people say, in traditional psychology and things like this, they say, you know, it's all mental. So you think a thought, and which triggers an emotion, which triggers your life, because your vibration switches. And what I want to let you know with the emotional pain body is it's totally different. It's not triggered by a thought at all. It's triggered emotionally by this pain body that hasn't been healed yet. And I'm going to teach you how to do that really quickly. Not heal it completely, but understand it in a way where you can start healing it and not get so triggered by it. But it happens when an event reminds the emotional pain body of the first time it was triggered, it was created. So it reminds your emotional pain body, like it resonates with it. It vibrationally resonates with the scenario that happened to you when you were really young that created this emotional pain. Think about it. It may be a rejection. Someone may say something that seems like a rejection. You may have an extreme emotional reaction. When that emotion gets triggered, when that emotional pain body gets ignited, what happens is it triggers your mind to then have thoughts that resonate with that level of pain. So it goes emotion to mind rather than mind into emotion. So the first thing I want to say is this has taken me a lot of years to start to master. I only started really mastering this about 6 or 7 years ago when I started bringing a higher level of consciousness into my emotional reactions. And what this looks like is first having a daily practice of some sort of connection to a conscious or spiritual practice. Meditation's amazing, journaling, something where you get the feeling of flow. You get that resignation. You can resonate with an experience that feels like a higher vibration, that feels like clarity, that feels like joy or bliss or peace. So you know, and you have some kind of reference point. Then, when your emotional pain body ignites, you can consciously bring that presence into it by observing it. Now, this is very hard to do the first dozen times you try to do it. But I'll give you an example. Say a friend is triggered by something and projecting something on me and is enraged towards me, and that triggers my pain body. I will notice it by having a trigger, an emotional threat feeling, a bigger reaction than needs to be. And instead of buying into and identifying with the emotional pain body, because when we identify with our emotions or our mental thoughts or mental concepts of who we are already becoming unconscious. If you can see this emotion arising and know that it's not you, but instead choose to identify with the consciousness behind it, that Zen feeling, that peaceful experience you have during yoga, start to know that that's your true self, and bring that awareness into this triggered situation. What starts to happen almost immediately is you're able to observe and watch it happen. You will still feel the emotion of it, but it won't take you over. This is the beginning of healing the emotional pain body. It absolutely can be healed. Trust me, I've had the biggest emotional pain body I've seen in my life has been my own. So I had that. And yes, it did terrible things. It tried to sabotage relationships and many things in my life and changed my thinking and made me think crazy things that weren't true about people or things, of course. But because of those extreme scenarios, it was almost as if it was my spiritual calling card to really practice my own consciousness. This is why I wrote, where's my book? Spiritual Fitness, which is spiritual tools for the everyday problem. How to turn those wounds into wisdom, because I've had to learn and practice it. And so I kind of love the pain that I've had to go through in life, because it really has brought me to my purpose of staying conscious in that storm and teaching others to do it by maintaining a higher level than the vibration of the emotional pain body. When you can maintain calm and observation of what's happening in your own body, you start to become a master of it. You start to master your emotions. And for someone like you watching this, or me, who's had emotional pain in their life that feels like it takes over or sabotages or overreacts, and you start to like not feel present, the number one thing to do is to practice presence in these situations. Every single time I've done this in my life, it's super exciting when you get used to it, is you bring this new level of consciousness into old patterns or old situations. That heals the pattern. You know, if you guys have seen my workbook or you're into it and you've seen my Soul Lab course, this is what it is. It's literally transcending these emotional, let's say, disasters by becoming the observer and the master behind the emotion. So today's video is about the first step in healing your emotional pain body is to continue the consciousness into the storm. Take a beat. What I like to do is take a breath, notice it, know that it's not me. This is not my identity. My identity is something very calm and enlightened. And when I bring that light into this shadow, this darkness, it has no choice but to dim. Because the vibration of such a low, negative emotion it honestly cannot hold a candle to the high vibe of consciousness when you trust and maintain that within it. So, we know now why we have emotional pain bodies, and we have a concept that we can use in the eye of the storm. So, if you have any questions, please write your comments below or email me, and the links to Spiritual Fitness and Soul Lab will be somewhere in this video. I hope you guys have a great week. Namaste.